Hello everybody, this is English for You, the program that helps you improve your English. A very warm welcome. In the studio I have my Fazekas students. Kata, how are you doing?
Fine, thank you.
Everything's fine?
Yeah.
Szabolcs, how's it hanging?
Okay.
Good, great. What's up?
I'm great, thanks.
Good. How are you doing, Victoria?
Fine, thanks.
Thank you very much. And today's special guest is Miss Cecily Morrison from the United States. And she's been here for a couple of months. She's a Fulbright grantee, and she is an ethnomusicologist. In fact, the only ethnomusicologist I've ever met. What ethnomusicology is, I hope we're going to find out by the end of this program. But Cecily has brought along with a couple of very strange-looking instruments. So Cecily, thank you very much for joining us.
Sure.
And what are they? Would you just name them, and how long have you had them?
What are they? Well, this goat-looking thing, it actually is a goat, or was a goat. Is a Magyar duda, is a Hungarian bagpipe. And this one here is a Scottish small pipe.
Would you lift it up for a second?
Let's see. This is a Scottish small pipe, and it's used with these blown with bellows, and it's one of maybe 4 bagpipes in Scotland.
Right. Thank you very much. We're going to get familiar with these pipes a little later. Now, I've already given away that Cecily is from the United States, but we usually guess in this program. So we're going to guess her hometown with the help of a piece of writing, and I would like you, Kata, would you be so kind as to read it out, and the others, would you just try and think about her hometown?
A disciplined group of men disguised as Mohawk Indians boarded the tea ships and dumped all the tea into the harbor.
Harbor is written in American English, right? O-R and not O-U-R. Right, so where do you think she's from? Okay, Szabolcs, please.
I think it's Boston.
How do you know?
Well, you know, in the 18th century, this happened in Boston.
Yes,
Or 19th.
18th century. You know, the final exam in history is looming up, so this is the famous Boston
Tea afternoon.
Tea Party, Boston Tea Party, 1773. Wow. And I'm just shining my knowledge. And on the 16th of December, exactly. Now, here is Boston, and I think it's Boston Harbor, at least I hope so. So where exactly happened this? And my question is, do people in Boston celebrate it every year on the 16th of December?
Well, we don't usually celebrate it, but everybody knows about it. Every child goes, and there's a little ship, or maybe a big ship, in the harbor, and every child goes to the harbor and looks at the ship when they're a child.
Dressed up as Mohawk Indians, or just normal clothes?
No, it was more the English people, so if they dress at all, they wear these bizarre-looking tripod hats and clothes with buckles on them.
Right. Thank you very much. Now, I've read somewhere in your paper that a very strange name, that's New Hampshire Highland Games, and you can see it. What happened there? How old were you? A story, please.
A story, please. All right. Well, I went for the first time, I think, when I was 4 or 5 maybe, and my parents like to go just to see it. It's a big games with lots of things to watch. There's dancing, there's music, there's athletic events, and I used to go and I would sit in front of the dancing the whole day. My mother would say, "Come, Cecily, come." No, thank you. And I would watch the dancing the whole day, and my mother asked me, I asked my mother rather, "I must do this, I must do this." No, you don't need to do this. Yes, I must dance. So 2 years of this, watching the dancing all day, my mother said, "Okay." And that was the beginning of my Highland dance
Highland dance career. And I've read in the same paper that at the Highland Games you saw athletic events, bagpipes, fiddles, and this. And this surprised me.
Sheep trials.
What do you think? Okay, let me turn to my students. Victoria, what do you think about sheep trials? No idea?
Not really. I don't want to say what my idea is.
Okay, Victor?
Something to do with sheep, but I don't know.
Very intelligent guys. Hey, very intelligent. So what are sheep trials?
Sheep trials, you actually have the same thing in Hungary, but they're not competitions in in the Scottish Games, there are competitions to see how well the dogs can round up the sheep because there are lots of sheep in Scotland.
Right, so good, thank you very much, great. Now Cecily went to a boarding school. Now boarding school is a place where you actually live.
Yes.
And it is called, it's going to come up pretty soon, the boarding school.
Oh, there it is.
Here we go. What's the name of this, Cecily?
It's called Choate Rosemary Hall.
Choate Rosemary Hall. And this is a kind of all-girls school, segregated?
No, no, no.
No? But if you look at it, to me, it looks like the Dead Poets Society. You remember this? You remember the school
Yes,
where they used
sure.
to... So, what do you think, what kind of school do you think it was? Cotta, by looking at this beautiful picture.
Okay, it might have had very strict rules, and as it was a boarding school for girls, there might have been only girls in it, and whatever, I don't know. I don't know the systems of these schools, really.
Right, so I think I made a mistake. It was not all-girls school.
No, it's not all girls.
Co-educated.
Yes.
It was, I said so, but it was a mistake. So what kind of a school was it?
What kind of a school was it? Well, it is based a lot on the traditions. These were called part of one of the preparatory schools that fed the major universities in America, like Harvard and Yale. Choate was a feeder school to Yale University. But it's probably not as strict as most people think. It was
Advantages and disadvantages of this school.
advantages and disadvantages. The education's very good, probably the best, one of the best in the country. We had everything. Our labs were very good. Our facilities were very good. Disadvantages, I've never worked so hard in my life, and I hope never to work so hard in my life again.
Turn to my students. They are Fozeka students and they have to learn a lot. I think they have the same problems, right? They have to learn a lot, and probably they will never ever study that much. We'll see. We'll see. All right. Now, there's an English saying, I wonder if they use it in the United States, a bull in a china shop.
I hope that's not me.
No, that's going to be me, a bull in a china shop. If you go to another country and you don't know the rules, you don't know the tradition, you might say and do things that upset other people because you don't know the rule, and you act as if you were a bull in a china shop. Now maybe my question is going to be very offensive and rude and impolite. Looking at you, I can see that you are not an African American, and you are not Hispanic, and you are not Asian American.
No.
My guess is that you went to a very good boarding school. You were born in Boston. Is it very impolite to ask you, are you a WASP? What's a WASP, first of all? Does anybody know? Szabolcs, please.
It's a white Anglo-Saxon Protestant.
White Anglo-Saxon Protestant. First of all, is it polite to ask a question like this?
Absolutely not.
No. No, that's why I said I might behave as a bull in a china
But
shop.
we're in Hungary, so you can ask anything.
Does it have a negative connotation?
It has a very negative connotation, and usually now it refers to men too. I often refer to white men as wasps too.
So you are not going to answer this?
Am I? No, I'm not, because I think it's a way of thinking, and I don't have that way of thinking.
Because I read that whose ancestors came from the northern part of Europe and influential people with money and power. Is that true, or it used to be true?
True, it's technically true, but I would prefer not to be identified as a wasp.
Right, so I was a bull in a china shop, okay? Now, the next thing is the Ivy League. Again, a question, what does that mean, the Ivy League?
Am I answering
Victor, does it ring a bell, Victoria?
Oh yes, these are very, very good universities like Harvard and Yale, and they are on the coast. Which coast?
East Coast. East Coast universities, 8 universities basically, and the most famous are, well, you correct me if I'm wrong, Yale, Harvard, Princeton, and Columbia.
Yes.
And Cecily went to Columbia, okay, Columbia University, which is an Ivy League university. Columbia University is in a well-known town, I would say, and I found this in one of the books, and I can see my students laughing. Why is it funny? Welcome to New York. Just kidding. Does it say anything about New York, this joke? First of all, my students, would you like to add where the humor is? Dead silence. So I'm turning to Cecily. So,
Well, maybe it's in two places. First, I've never seen a piece of grass in New York, so there's no grass. And welcome to New York. Maybe not everybody is welcome in New York.
there are too many people already.
Yes.
That's one thing. Another thing is, again, I might be wrong, that people in New York are not particularly polite or not regarded as polite.
No.
So saying welcome to New York is not really a New York type kind of thing, right?
No.
Okay, good. And Cecily was, another word, an undergraduate in New York. What's an undergraduate, Cecily?
An undergraduate is our first degree. So once we finished high school, which here is gymnasio, we go on to our undergraduate degree, which is our first university degree.
Yeah, so the first 4 years leading up to a bachelor's degree. Right, there's something hidden in your desks. A word card. So will you please put up your word cards, show your word cards. They are the 4 years, because each year has a name. But unfortunately, this is not in the correct order. So which one do you think comes first? We have, Kata, would you just first say what your word is?
Sophomore.
Sophomore, good. Szabolcs,
Junior.
great. Victor, please.
Freshman.
Okay,
Senior.
okay. Use your...
I think mine is the first.
Yours is,
freshman.
so would you give it to Kata, please, very quickly? And which one do you think is the second?
I think this one junior.
I don't think so. Junior comes... Victor's going to grab junior. You're going to have sophomore and senior. So this is the correct order. Freshman, sophomore, junior, and senior. Now we're going to talk about your life, if you don't mind.
Sure.
So let's talk about your freshman year first. And again, an American English word, major. What is major?
A major, in our university system, we don't just study one subject, but we study, we have to study all subjects, but we concentrate on one subject. So I took 40 courses my university career, but only 12 were my major.
Right, so the most important subject or subjects, right?
Yeah.
In your freshman year, Kata, you have the freshman card. In your freshman year, what was your major?
I was an economics major.
An economics major? I bet Mommy and Daddy were very happy.
Yes, they were.
Cecily is going to be an
happy,
economist, going to be an economist, making a lot of money, things
money,
like this.
money.
Right. Now comes Szabolcs with the sophomore word card. What was your major then?
Well, at the beginning, I stayed with economics, but I decided that I really didn't like economics. And I really didn't like the people doing economics, and I really didn't like the lifestyle of someone who graduated with an economics degree. So I changed to ethnomusicology.
Would you say it again?
Ethnomusicology.
Ethnomusicology. I bet Mommy and Daddy were surprised when you went home saying, I'm not interested in economics anymore. I would like to study ethnomusicology. And they said, what? And this is what I'm going to ask you. What? What do you think ethnomusicology is? Victor?
I think it does something with the folk songs, the folk music, and maybe compare different nations' musics, I think.
Thank you. Would you like to add anything to it, Victoria?
Maybe it does investigations into the history or development of folk music, and who knows.
Right. Cecily, what is,
Well-
very briefly, if you could put it in 1 or 2 sentences, if it's possible.
It's possible. Ethnomusicology is the study of culture through music. So often we use folk music, but it's not necessarily folk music. It can be popular music. It can be any music that exists. It can be classical music too,
Really?
really.
And what's the aim of this? To study the...
It's an anthropology and sociology based field. So the aim is to study people, why people do what they do, how they do what they do, how they form their identity, how they form their communities.
So it's not necessarily folk music.
No.
I've forgotten to ask something. I wanted you to show your Scottish small pipe
Of course.
and play the first tune.
The very
You
first
start the
tune.
very first tune. And when putting it on, just introduce this.
Okay, so these are the bellows. This is what I use to put air into the pipes because I don't blow into it. And I also play the big bagpipes, which you saw on the monitor before, but they're a little bit loud, so they're okay.
So Scottish small pipe.
Scottish small pipes, yes.
What do you call this part?
This is called the bag, pretty simply, leather, and these are called the drones. There are 3 of them, so it makes one sound, but one note, but 3 different places it comes from. And then I play the melody.
What are you doing now?
I am,
Pumping?
what did we say, inflating?
Inflating, pumping up, inflating.
Like the rock song, Pump It Up. And this is where I'm going to play the melody. And I'll play you Scotland the Brave, which I think is the most famous song. So maybe you've heard it. I think you can hear it on the mobile telephone. But first I have to tune a bit.
Wow, thank you very much. Now, in your junior year, and this is Victor's, you wrote somewhere in your paper that you immersed in Scottish culture.
Yes, yes.
Immersed in Scottish culture, Scottish country dance, Highland dance, Cayley
dance.
Cayley dance, and the Scottish step dance. So, how did you spend that year, your junior year?
My junior year.
I think you need your mic.
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
Thank you. Here we go. All right. It's quite normal in America. Maybe 60, 70% of people go abroad for their junior year, so they go to another country. And I decided to go to Scotland because they speak English there.
Do they?
Well, sort of English anyways. And I did many of these types of dance, and I also played the music, and I wanted to do kind of a further study to write my senior essay or my senior thesis on Scottish dance. So I was going to do what we call field research.
Field research.
Field
A whole
research.
year, your junior year in Scotland.
Yes.
Did you like that year?
Oh, it was the best year, by far the best year. I lived with 11 people from all over Europe, Italians, Spanish, Romanians, and we hung out a lot.
Right. And now comes your last year, which is your senior year, when you wrote this paper, right? We have a beautiful picture here.
Yes.
And you wrote this paper, and you actually studied those 4 different genres. And what is the conclusion?
What is
So
the
if you
conclusion?
go back to the 4 genres, the 4 dances, so what kind of group identity they represent?
Well, I looked at how these are all new traditions. They have roots in old traditions, but they began at the beginning of the 20th century. And I looked at what kind of identity was coming from these new traditions, how people were choosing from old traditions to make new traditions. And the conclusion was, let's see, Scottish country dance was kind of this is a bit difficult if you don't know the history of Scotland, but was very much an upper class type of dance, and it shows in the way the dance is done and how they choose to meet. They have big balls, fancy dresses, very proper, and Highland dance, which is much more of a kind of a formed identity, which doesn't really exist, but it came mostly from the Highlands or the north of Scotland, and it's very archaic with old kilts and costumes, and it's very unchanging. It must be the way it was done in the past. And then Cayley dancing, which is a very informal type of dancing, which is kind of represents the new people in Scotland, how people are trying to get together and reform a new Scottish identity. And then Scottish step dance, which is just coming back in the last 10 years, very much represents the Gaelic speaking, that's another language, Gaelic, in the western islands in the north.
And these dances are very different?
Yes, they're pretty different. Scottish step dancing looks something like river dance. Scottish country dancing looks a bit like ballet. Highland dance, maybe you'll see later. And Ceilidh dance just looks like people running around drinking beer, having fun.
Great, thank you very much. Now I would like to have the picture of a famous Hungarian, if possible. And my question is whether you recognize this person. And yes, if you do recognize this person, would you put up your hand? Kata, please, I love you for this. Say it.
He's Bartók.
Bartók, thank you. How did you come in contact with Hungarian culture?
Through Bartók. I play the violin, and my teacher one day said, "Oh, you like folk music?" Yes. Then here is the 44 violin duos written by Bartók, which are all based on folk tunes, Hungarian folk tunes. And I loved it. It was great. And that summer I decided to travel. It's a very American thing to spend your summer traveling in Europe. But I didn't want to go from city to city to city like most people do. So I attended some music camps here in Hungary, and that was my first.
Great. We're going to have something in Hungarian. Cecily has been learning Hungarian for a couple of months, and we're going to check on her Hungarian. And it's going to be about something to help you a little. Okay. So would you please roll the tape, and it's going to be Cecily's task to sum it up in English, and if she can't, we're going to help her, right? So would you roll the tape, please?
A néphit szerint boszorkányos, ördögi hangszer volt a duda. Sok legenda keringett az olyan hangszerekről, amelyek a szögre akasztva maguktól megszólaltak. Az egész középkori Európában elterjedt hangszer volt a duda, nálunk az utolsó időkig megőrizte a szegénység, hiszen egész lakodalmakat, táncokat egy dudás képes volt végigmuzsikálni.
Okay, so Cecily, what was it about?
I'm not sure, but I think it was about that bagpipes are all over Europe and they're used for dancing, and
That's the second part, absolutely wonderful. And what about the first part, Victoria, please? What about the duda? What kind of a...
They thought it was vicious because it gave out voices without you actually blowing air into it.
So duda has something to do with witchcraft and sorcery, because they sometimes started to play by themselves without that. Do you think that in Scotland, do they have the same connotation or?
not so much, because now Scottish bagpipes like this one have such a connotation of more of war, not of the devil, but of war.
Right.
But they do have some connotations of evil.
Evil thing, witchcraft. Now, I just want one more thing, the definition of ethnomusicology. You sent it to me via email.
Yes.
And it says that ethnomusicology is the study of how music embodies, creates and recreates personal and group, not necessarily national, identity. So this is what ethnomusicology is about. And now, just one more thing. Cecily won a National Highland dance competition, and this is what she's going to do right now. And we're going to say bye-bye and see you next time. And I would like you to just go and dance. Thank you very much. Thanks a lot.